Hey, Jose,
What's up, brother?
how are you?
I'm fabulous.
All right, back for another week of questions. So I got a list here that a bunch of people have asked us, and then you have some stuff too that we current events we can talk about. Get the Jose hot take on this.
Yeah.
So first one is Big Ramy signs with Tony Hughes' company. What are they? Enhanced Athlete is the name of the company, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to get your take on that. The pushback is that Tony Hughes, obviously you've interviewed him before. You're aware of the character that he is.
Mhm.
Kind of, as some see, plays the kind of brings up the worst of the sport, right? Like what some people don't want to talk about. Not only does he talk about, but it goes to such an extreme level of using drugs and protocols that even top pros aren't even using, and normalizing it. Like this is just something you got to do. And so he's made his reputation sensationalizing that. And through getting a following on YouTube, as a lot of people do, he now has products to sell. Some are the basic protein pre-workouts, and that I think is what Ramy's going to be endorsing. But he has a separate line, I guess, same name, separate company, separate entity, that does sell DNP and all of these experimental products. So like you can go to Enhanced Athlete and buy DNP, and Tony Hughes will tell you how to use it, right? But that's listed as a separate company, like a different Enhanced Athlete company. So the Big Ramy company is basic protein powder, pre-workout, EAAs, all that stuff. So what are your thoughts on that? I guess affiliating yourself, is he wrong to take the biggest check possible if that's Tony Hughes? Should he be concerned about the brand of Big Ramy and who he associates himself with?
Well, I have a number of opinions on this, but one which was very interesting was there was a show called Trafficked on I don't know if it's on Bravo or one of those channels, but if you look it up, Traffic steroids, and there's a whole documentary about the Olympia weekend with Tony and some amateur guy that was competing, and the woman that did the interviews with him, and she followed them around from Florida to an actual lab where they were making the stuff, to all the way up to the show in Las Vegas. And she was later on Joe Rogan, and I found it so interesting because I had the exact same experience as far as, like, she said to Joe, she said, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Like, he's so approachable, so just nice, and you want to pull for him, and you want to be like, this guy's great. But then there's that seedy, shady side that you're like, you did not just say that, or you're not injecting some kid in a parked car out in a parking lot. Like, what is going on? So that I found the same exact thing. I think Tony's a great guy. He's funny. He's very intelligent, obviously. I just think morally, or I don't know what he's doing. Like, he's trying to push the boundaries of what is legal and what is right. But now as far as Ramy goes, this industry is not like it used to be. The money is not being thrown around by supplement companies, magazine endorsements. There's just not that kind of money anymore. So I think he was with Dragon Pharma.
Yeah.
And they either weren't paying him, or they don't have the money to pay him what he's worth or what he's looking for. And apparently Tony did. Now, these contracts, I mean, they could be gone tomorrow. So, do I blame him for going after the biggest number after having just been with Dragon and it didn't work out? They either didn't pay him or didn't pay him what he's worth, or what he thinks he's worth. And Tony did. Tony offered it to him. If I were them, I would do something like they do in the NFL. Say, listen, I'll take this much, but I need this much guaranteed no matter what. So if it's 300,000 a year, 400, 500,000 a year, I need you to guarantee me, 500 up front to make sure, because, like you said, he's got those two companies that are not connected, but they are connected. Well, guess what? If he goes to jail for one of them, they're both in trouble.
Right.
So I would make sure I got my money up front, and maybe he did. Apparently Dennis James is signed on with him. Now I don't think Ramy said, yeah, I'll do it if Dennis is signed. I think it was the other way around. I would assume that Dennis got it for him and said, give me a finder's fee or bring me on too, and I'll be able to help you, because Dennis is multilingual, so he's be helpful in Germany and some of the, as far as I know, he speaks about 5 or 6 languages. So he's an asset in his own right. But, I don't know. What would I do? I'd probably go for the money, because it's so short. This career is so short, and your opportunity to make real money is so limited, and especially now, where most of your money has to be on your own from social media. And if you're not great at social media, then, you're sort of limited. So I can't blame him for wanting to believe in Tony. Like I said before, Tony's very convincing. He's a very nice guy, and he can probably convince you to do it for free. He's that good. But
so who's Ramy? So obviously Ramy was with Dragon Pharma just before this, and I've heard on other podcasts rumors that he wasn't being paid. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's bizarre that you would have someone signed and lose them when they become Mr. Olympia, right? Whether maybe his contract needed to be renewed and he opted out. And then who was he before that? Was it GAT? I know he was with one of the big kind of vitamin shop companies.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Okay.
And I'm not sure who he went with right after that. Maybe it was GAT right to Dragon Farmer. But yeah, I don't know how well they're doing. I've never even heard of Dragon Pharma outside of Europe or Brazil, or I don't think
I only know of them because of a few athletes, like Kaike was with them for a little bit. Yeah. Yuman Eaton is still with them. So just people that I follow on Instagram, competitors, they're pushing it. I know a couple that store in supplement store in Medford. Flex Appeal was carrying their stuff, probably because of Kaike is a favor to him. Other than that, I don't really know much about them. I think they signed a bunch of people to get themselves on the map, kind of like we were seeing what's the company out of Canada, Dorian, the HD Muscle, right? And not saying that this in any bad way, but it's very smart to just blitz the whole scene. Like HD is definitely doing that now. They've signed everybody. Like they must have literally 10, 15 athletes plus, right? Of all the top guys, where you scratch your head and you're like, what is this? And I would have to guess that it's probably not sustainable, but you do that for the first year, you lose a ton of money, but your exposure, it just ramps right up. And then you can't keep all these people on because, it sounds like they're taking care of people, from what we hear with these athletes, like they're legit contracts. It's not a free supplement contract. Right. And, but it'd be hard to believe that that's sustainable, but I understand it's a way to get noticed really quick. So maybe that's what Dragon Pharma did too, is they just signed a bunch of people, got themselves on the map. So they got their retailer distributors and all that stuff set up, the direct to consumer, and then you cut everything because it's not sustainable to pay all these athletes.
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing. Maybe HD's huge in Canada, or maybe Dragon Farm is huge in Europe or Brazil. But I've never seen HD or Dragon Farmer in the States.
So let me ask you, for a point of an athlete, like where you've had multiple sponsorships, what goes through your head as an athlete when you're getting offers? Say, back in 2012, 2014, 15, that era, where a contract's coming up, either you're going to stay with this company or there's other companies that are interested. Were you ever concerned with, it won't look good if I leave this company? Like, I'll stay with this company longer, even though I have maybe a 10% better offer from somewhere else, because I don't want to be seen as hopping from company to company. Did that cross your mind? Or was it like stuff behind the scenes that, a consumer might think, okay, Jose went from this company to this company because the products are better, right? When I can imagine that's probably not much of a concern. It's, are they agreeing to fly you to every show and put you up and make your life as a competitor easier? Can you talk a little bit about what that was like when you had to make those decisions?
Yeah, there's many different reasons. It could be that, certainly at the beginning, they were just not offering to pay what I felt I was worth and what other companies were willing to pay. So I end up moving forward and getting significantly more each time. Also, there were, you may have clause in your contract, like bonus money for wins. One particular company I was with was awesome as far as the bonus. I was getting big bonuses, and it happened to be during the peak of my career where I was winning everything. And, that's a huge thing to consider. If they're not going to pay you exactly what you think you're worth, but they're going to send you to the main events like FIBO, the Arnold, the Olympia, some of the bigger fitness expos and whatnot. So it's a great way for you to be marketing yourself. And also there's a bonus structure. So you might not get a month exactly what you think, but if you have confidence in your ability to win, then you can make up that money that way. So, I was never, I wanted the best fit for me, the best money, obviously, because like I said, it's a short career. So you got to get it while you can, but also you want to be in a situation where they utilize you properly. One company I was with, I didn't get used much at all. I was in a few ads, but then they would, fly me down to do a commercial, yet didn't prepare me for the commercial. So I'm trying to read off a teleprompter, and I'm like, this ain't my skill. You gotta, get me informed ahead of time so I know what I'm talking about. And I can.
You're like Rocky. What was the Rocky movie? Was it
Rocky
2 or Rocky
3?
3? They had him in the cage with the lions.
Yeah. That wasn't a great fit. They didn't utilize me the way that I should have been. And to my strengths. My strengths are being there in person, meeting people, and being able to discuss things off the cuff, not memorizing the ingredients in these words, like cyclic dextrin. I don't even know how to say that.
Right.
And that ain't my strength. I don't know the exact molecules that make up these products. I would just, and some of them I wouldn't use. Some of them are garbage, and I have to promote them. So I would have a talk with them and say, listen, I really only want to stick to the things that I use. So don't use me in ads of something that I don't use, because I can't pretend to be familiar with it. And anyone that knows me, I'm a simple guy. I'll use your protein powder. I'll use your pre-workout, I guess, maybe some BCAAs. But I ain't going to use all these, other things that I don't know anything about. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy. It's got to be a good fit, and that's the way I always looked at it. I whatever company's going to allow me to benefit the most as far as getting out there and meeting people, which was, for a period of time, I traveled to every country, and that was huge. I was in Australia, New Zealand, Germany, England, that really help me build my own brand. So, you have to think above the money sometimes. Which one is going to allow you to build your name for the future when you're not with that company?
Sure. I remember we were talking when, we had Guy on the podcast, Guy Cisternino,
Yeah.
and he had made up his mind. He was about to be a free agent, and he had several companies going after him. And you knew what the company he had picked was, but he couldn't announce it yet, right?
Yeah.
And I guess the debate someone like he has is, do you go with your buddy's company that you're rooting for him? It's a startup, you can help him out, but there's a real chance the lights aren't on a year from now.
Right.
There can be, you hope everything goes well, but it's not established. So most startups fail, and that could fail. Or do you go with the guy that's already established, been doing this for, whatever it is, 8-10 years, and get that guaranteed check and allow you to build your brand bigger because he already has a brand, right?
Yeah.
Like they have an established brand, so it's only going to add fans to your base versus you having to build someone else's brand up.
Yeah.
So this stuff's fascinating because I think the general public or the bodybuilding fan will say, in Guy's case, like, why did Guy go with Blackstone over Fuad's company? Everyone that likes Guy on Fuad's podcast would say he should have gone with Fuad. These guys are friends. Fuad makes great products, right? For me as a consumer, if I had to pick between the two products, I would pick Fuad's products as a better product. But there's everything you're talking about of, where's that guaranteed money? Because most of these companies find some way to drop you anyway. Even the ones with the best intentions, stuff goes wrong, they can't pay you, they've got to keep the lights on for their own company, so you're going to be the first thing that they cut.
There's a lot of things to consider. One is that, with Fuad's company, he's always going to be the focal point. Guy would have been his sidekick. With Blackstone, Guy is the number one guy there. He's the main guy. He'll be at everything. He'll be so, and the supplement industry, it's not like they're reinventing the wheel. It's so saturated. Even if Fuad, has the best products and promotes it to the max, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be a huge success, that they can pay Guy what he thinks he's worth.
Sure.
Where Blackstone's already making enough that he could pay him out of the gate exactly what he wanted, and utilize him as the number one guy. I mean, they've already been using him a ton, and Guy's smart like that. Guy wants to be, featured. He wants to build his own brand, which he's done very well. And PJ and Blackstone are continuing that. So I think he made the right choice, even though, sometimes it's fun. It's a challenge to be part of something that's starting up and growing. It's just, you kind of, your window is very small to make that money. So if Fuad's offer was a few grand less a month, that matters. So not only am I getting paid less, but I'm not the feature guy, and there's no guarantee I got a job in a year from now.
Yep.
So, which I don't know any of that. I don't know any of the financial. I'm just guessing.
You have to assume too, when there is expos again, when the world opens up, Blackstone's going to have a big booth, right? Like I've already budgeted year after year to be at the Olympia, to be at the Arnold, maybe FIBO. They're going to have a big setup. They're going to have the model girls walking around. They'll have, the big feature, meet Guy Cisternino. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And typically for a company like Fuad's, I don't know what he plans on doing, but that's a lot of money, especially to off the gate when you're just establishing yourself, to spend $20, $40, $60,000 for a booth at one of these expos, right? So Fuad might not even be doing that. So like if you're Guy, it's a guaranteed appearance when these things actually happen. Now, when you do those things too, are you allowed to sell your own merch, or do they discourage that? They just want you meeting people because you're on their dime?
So Guy might have it worked out a deal with PJ because they're good friends that he can, as long as he's there promoting their products as well. But a lot of the companies will not let you sell your own stuff there.
Okay.
Because they want you to be focused on their product the entire time. Like when I was with iForce or BPI, I did not sell my own stuff at a booth. But I wasn't, friends with the owner.
Sure.
And that's understandable. Maybe you could work out, say maybe for 1 hour, I get 1 hour to sell my own stuff, and then the rest of the time, it's pretty flexible. I think if you go about it the right way, you can work something out. But I never had the situation where I could sell my own stuff. I think Guy will be able to.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we'll move on. So another topic you brought up that we're a little late on, but it's interesting nonetheless, is Nick Walker versus Blessing, the upcoming New York Pro. I don't know. I think Generation Iron, as they have a part in starting all of this drama, hence the Sean Ray and Lee Priest thing, is they pick up some story. I think they realized both Nick and Blessing were doing the show. They put a side by side, said, who's going to win. And I think Blessing jumped on first, saying, "Of course I'm going to win." Nick said, "Hell no," and it escalated. It got pretty heated until Nick finally said, "You know what? I don't need this drama. I'm so confident I'm going to win. I'll just go into the show." So, what's your take on first? I guess the drama that played out certainly makes the New York Pro a slightly more interesting show, having this buzz going into it. On your drama, the drama of how it played out, and then also how you think it's going to play out on stage between those two.
So I at first thought it was a joke. I thought they were like friends.
Yeah.
But apparently it wasn't. So I mean, it's good. It's entertaining. Blessing's a super entertaining guy. He's got a couple million followers on his social media. He's very funny. I've yet to see him in a situation like Nick has already been in. I haven't seen Blessing in a top 5 pose down with a real pro lineup. And Nick has handled himself very well. And Nick is only getting better. I think people confuse Nick's physique as just this mass monster, but when you see him hit a front double by, that's a pretty physique, He's wide shoulders with a nice taper, big flaring quads. His rear double can stand next to anyone. So, I'm leaning towards Nick heavily. I think if Nick's 100%, I think his shape is better. I think he's bigger per square inch. He's significantly shorter than Blessing. I would pick Nick, especially when he nails it, when he's in shape. He's only getting better, the kid. And I've watched his training, and that's something I've wanted to comment about. Like, this kid's training, it's no wonder he's growing at this rate, because if you watch him, he's very focused, he's not throwing weight around. He's not slamming stuff. He's got a great connection. You can tell with the way he's training. Everything is smooth and controlled, and his body's responding. I love Nick. I think that kid, I think he's a great kid. I think he's hilarious. And I think his physique is better than people give him credit for. He's not just a mass monster. There's a nice shape to him too. But Blessing is very impressive in his own right. But if I had to pick, I'll say Nick.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the only wild card is Blessing working with Chad. And, can Chad just nail it? There's the chance Blessing comes out of nowhere and we go, holy shit, didn't see that coming, right? And wins the show. It's a small chance. Do you put any stock? So like when you listen to Nick, we've had him on the podcast, I love Nick. He was messaging me this morning saying he watched our leg workout and was getting amped up by it. Like, just a good guy. The fact that he's he was asking me about my competition plans, like a really good person.
Yeah.
So I can't help but root for the guy. And Nick through and through is a bodybuilder, right? Like Nick's not doing this for any other reason than to try to be Mr. Olympia. Like he just exudes this, right? He's not going to break. He's going to do like 365 days a year. He's going to follow the plan. Blessing, I don't know him, like we've been able to talk to Nick. He comes across as a social media guy. Certainly you don't look like he looks without training your ass off, right? He looks incredible. But the red flag for me is, why hasn't he competed? Right? Like he's been around for years. His last show was at least a few years ago, I think. I know he was going to do the Arnold this year. So he had plans to compete, obviously. I think Arnold Australia, and that got canceled. So last year rather, gives him, kind of a pass. But why hasn't he competed? And are we going to see leaps and bounds from the guy that turned pro, which is, you see he has potential, but that potential isn't coming in and winning the New York Pro over Justin Rodriguez or Nick, or maybe I don't think Akeem's doing it, but whoever the top guys are. Do you put any stock in that of Blessing sort of being the social media guy and not competing? I mean, financially, he probably made the smart choice, right? He's making a lot more money doing social media than doing contests. But, when it comes down to it and you're trying to win the New York Pro, do you read into that, the fact that he just hasn't competed in years?
No, because when he turned pro, he was excellent. But, and I believe he won a few times, had a few chances at turning pro. And in one of them, he declined to do another show. Okay. And he was very good, but he was not ready to do any damage at the pro level. He's put on considerable amount of size since then. I think that was his plan all along, because he was very good for a young up-and-comer, enough to turn pro, but he wasn't ready to win any shows because structurally he's a big guy. So he's got to fill out that frame.
Yeah. How about with the coach hopping? None of these things may come into play, but historically we've seen if somebody's kind of, he was with Neil Hill, obviously. I don't know who he was with before Neil, then switch from Neil to Chad. Do you read into that at all?
Sometimes, I don't, like you said, I don't know him. I don't know much about him. He's entertaining. I don't know what his personality's like as far as that goes. I don't know too many what coaches he's with, other than you just said Neil and now Chad. He's I think Neil is a minimalist in a sense, where he can help you maximize your potential with what you have, where Chad is known as the big guys coach. He's always had huge guys and helped them become even huger. And, that's probably played into it a lot more for Blessing, because he's a big guy. He's tall, wide, big structure. He needs someone that can help him be the biggest guy on stage. So, maybe he made the right choice there. But, time will tell. I think Nick is more ready at this point, because of the structure of Blessing. It's going to take a few more years to fill it out. And I know he can get in good condition. I've seen some shots of him, unbelievable midsection with abs and the obliques. And, but every time they show those side by sides, I think Nick looks bigger. Yeah. Nick looks just thicker and more pro ready. I'm not even saying Nick's going to win the New York Pro, because as you mentioned, Justin Rodriguez is nasty too.
And I think he's beat Nick already, right? In Chicago, the Chicago Pro. Yep.
Yeah. So, Nick certainly could win if he continues this trajectory of what he's on. But I think he'll beat Blessing. Another topic we should touch on real quick is Derek Lunsford finally.
Oh yeah.
He was with JB, James Brown, his good friend for many years, who helped him win everything, and helped him start one of the greatest careers we've ever seen. As far as in a 1 month span, he turned pro at the USA's, went to Tampa, won the 212, and went to the Olympia and was top 5 all in a month. So that, God bless him. James Brown deserves a lot of respect and appreciation for what he was able to do for Derek. But after time and time again at the Olympia, you can't even say disappointment. He's been, first call out,
place, right.
Yeah, but for what you see in potential for Derek, it is a disappointment. And when you see him 8 weeks out and he looks like he could beat anyone, and then you see him the day of the show and he's just not impressive, not as impressive, it makes you wonder what went wrong. And I know Hany works wonders with champions. I say that because he gets people that are already unbelievable and makes them perfect. Like Phil Heath was awesome already when he got Phil. Jay had already won a few Olympias when Hany had got him. And now he got Hady after Hady was already awesome. And now he's got Derek after Derek is already Derek. And I think, he'll be able to nail it. I do. I have a really good feeling for Derek moving forward.
So what's your prediction on that? Do you think they go open or they try 212 another time?
I think he's going to want to do a 212.
Yeah.
I think he wants to have a 212 champion. And I think he thinks that either Phil or Hady can win the Open. He wants to conquer the world,
Right.
And I think done properly, he can, I think Derek was too big for too long, like 245 at 8 weeks out. He should already be kind of close, at 8 weeks out. Not 245. He should be 225. So he glides in and his body doesn't go through trauma trying to make weight.
Yep.
And I think Hany will get him harder ahead of time, so he's ready ahead of time. So there's very few little last minute tweaks, and I think Derek will be dangerous as hell for maybe one year. It'll probably be one and done.
Right.
His body just wants to grow. And being so young, he can, and man, that shape and that physique he's got, there's no reason he couldn't be at his best top 5 Olympia next year in the Open.
Yep.
There's not too many physiques prettier than his.
Yeah. Imagine having a Derek in the Open that's, let's say, 10 pounds bigger and working with a coach who is able to bring him in on the day of the show. Perfect. Versus now Flex, or Hady. It makes for a really interesting battle.
It really does. It really does.
It's because was it 2018, right? Flex looked unbelievable. He was second, I believe. Yeah. And looked great. He's second. You don't take anything away from him. But again, like you said, it was a disappointment from where we as the fans thought his potential was. Yeah. Where he could be, right? Mainly given those photos that are 4 or 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out, right?
Yeah.
Just a flatter version of him comes in on the day of the show. So, but the shape is unbelievable. That front double bicep with the small waist, and you harden that up and you get him coming full and in shape. That's deadly in any way.
Yeah.
And we've seen with Hady and Bonac that someone coming up in 220 to 230 range could potentially win an Olympia.
Yeah, well, Derek has better shape than both of those guys.
Yeah.
So if he's equally as conditioned, all equally as big in condition, he wins. He would have all the attributes to be a champion. I see him doing 212 maybe one more time, and then being very dangerous in the open for many years to come. He's only 27. That's
Crazy,
crazy, right?
crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited for him.
So I got a list of questions here. We'll probably just pick one. We've been on for a little bit, and I'll save these for next time. So kind of having to do with what we're talking about, who wins, a Nick versus a Blessing, or Derek moves up. And I want to get your take because, besides being a top competitor for so long, you're also a judge, whether people may not realize that. And we're starting the contest season. You've got everybody posting their photos 5 weeks out, going to be the densest guy on stage. And, and there's sometimes with people, whether it would be, they just don't know, they haven't been around someone like you to look at photos, like I've been fortunate to be and say, this guy wins because of this, this, and this, right? And you need somebody with that experience to break it down for you and show you why this guy beat this other guy. You either have people have their own delusional idea of why something's going to win, or a competitor's going to win, why they're going to do well, or they have a coach that might be delusional, that's just trying to get in their head and encourage them, and tell them you're awesome, you're looking great, you're going to kill everybody there, you got this, right? Those sort of words of encouragement, which sets them up for failure. So can you kind of talk about, maybe for all these competitors that are getting ready to compete this season on an NPC stage, what the judges are looking for, why certain people win, why certain people who think that they were gonna win place horribly? What's the criteria that you were looking at? Or, if you're coaching somebody, you're trying to dial all these various things in.
Well, all these people, to be fair, should think they're going to win, should train to win, do all the things it takes to win, whether it be sleep, recovery, perfect diet, getting your cardio in. I think social media has destroyed a lot of these people because they think that cheat meals is the way to go. And I'm just seeing way too many cheat meals and excited about my Five Guys and all this, when in reality, you're not in shape. So it doesn't make sense. But, what ultimately, whether it's bikini, it's figure, bodybuilding, classic, we're looking for the best God-given shape. When they first walk out in the line, I kind of look with a blurred eye and just see who has the best shape and go from there. So then you pick the top 5 people with the best shape. Now, out of the top 5 people with the best shape, who has the most balance? And then out of the top 5 that have the most balance, who has the best conditioning? Who's presenting it the best? And it usually narrows down pretty quick of who's done every last thing to be their best. Because there'll be someone who has better shape, slightly better shape, but the next guy has spent more time on his presentation. So he's able to appear better than the other guy. So you have to spend time on posing, on making sure that you're lean enough to see all the muscles, the separation. And that goes for bikini too, because there can be a girl who's in slightly better shape than the next girl, but the other girl poses better, or she has slightly better balance. So you have to have all those things. So, for example, if you have awesome legs and you don't train your arms or you don't train your shoulders, you're not going to have the balance of someone that you think you should smoke them. I'm way better than that guy. Why would he ever beat me? Well, he's got better balance. He has front to back, top to bottom. It's a sport of completeness. You have to have everything. So oftentimes the guy that wins doesn't have the best God-given genetics, but he put all those things together. I've been in many shows. Almost every show I won, there was someone better than me, but they didn't put it together. They weren't as balanced or as hard or as, able to present themselves as well. So You got to focus on every detail that you can in order to win, because your shape isn't going to do it. Your conditioning isn't doing it. Your posing isn't going to do it. It's all of them combined. So, I see a lot of it. I see a lot of guys with stellar body parts and missing something else, and not overly going out of their way to try to improve those weaknesses. And having cheat meals, when I don't see detail in your physique, those pictures you post, what are the cheat meals for? Yeah, that's it. You have to have a little bit of everything, and those guys usually win. At the pro level, the top 5 at the Olympia are all peeled, shredded. So then it comes down more to God-given genetics of whose shape is the best, because everyone's conditioned. Pretty much everyone can pose. But at the local level, you have to have it all, and if you do, you'll do well. But don't be surprised when when you don't win, if you didn't do all those things that it takes to win.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's one thing when somebody does their first show, you have to put a lot on the coach at that point, right? If somebody hires a coach, to make sure they're prepared, right? Whether it's weekly posing practice, because you can't go into a show and a week or two out get together to learn the poses and think you're going to be okay.
Right.
You have to just drill this stuff multiple times a week, weeks and weeks and weeks leading up to it, so that you have the endurance, and take away the mirror, start practicing mirror, and everything looks good, then you don't have the mirror. And so the part of it I see when somebody's doing a first show, I'd put a lot of responsibility on the coach that they're hiring to have the game plan in place to make sure you're working with what you're working with in terms of the muscle they have when somebody starts a prep, right? We're not going to fix weak body parts in a 12-week prep. So the coach at that point has to get them as shredded as possible and make sure their presentation is good, right? It's like the two things you can control, and that'll go a long way. If your presentation is great and you can maybe hide some weak areas, if your arms suck and on a side try, you hit it from the side and quickly turn to the front and do, the front thigh pose as opposed to
the front tricep.
Yeah, front tricep. There's a lot of stuff that you can kind of tweak to deal with it, right? But then after that, once you do that first show, where I put a lot of responsibility on the coach that you hire, if you're doing a show a year later, that responsibility is now on you as a competitor to say, whether it's going to talk to the judges or talking to people that have eyes like yourself, maybe other pros that can give you really honest feedback and say, well, look, in this pose, your glutes weren't in yet, you weren't lean enough, your arms really need to come up, your back needs to come up, and then come up with the game plan to improve that, which is really hard to do, right? It's certainly easier said than done, but you at least have to have that game plan first of, here's what I'm going to do. And I've seen that with so many competitors, lots of local guys that I'm friends with. Take Frank's a good example, right? Frank, who works with Justin, he's a kid 3-4 years ago, you saw him on stage, you're like, yeah, this kid should call it quits. Like, he loves the sport, but he might want to find something else to do. But he was so determined, and year after year had the right game plan of saying, all right, I'm doing heavy bent over barbell rows. My back looks like shit. It's not working. I need to try something else. Let me do chest supported movements. Let me go slow. Let me really get a contraction, cut the weight in half. And then his back came up, and sort of do that body part by body part of figuring out, what are my weaknesses? I have to fix them. Like you said, you have to be the guy up there with the least amount of weaknesses. And so you can't fix that in a 12-week prep, but you can certainly fix that by the time you do your next show. And if you don't have a plan to do that, you don't really have a shot. You've been judging New England's and Cutler in these shows year after year. I'm sure you see the same old guys coming back year after year after year, right?
Yeah.
In no better
exactly
condition.
the same.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Yeah.
And you know, to each their own. Maybe these guys are getting something out of it, you know, that's beyond the placing. But I have to imagine there's, you know, when you subject yourself to these bodybuilding shows, there's, especially as a guy, there's a part of you that you want to win, you want to place.
Sure.
And if you're not making top 5, there's got to be something in you that says, I got to come back and crack the top 5, right? But you have to do something different. You can't come back, you know, doing the same old plan with the same old coach and coming in out of shape and missing body parts. So, yeah, that's the part that isn't really talked about much, you know, amongst competitors. It's, you hear, you just see the post after the show where they'll be like, oh, really stacked show. You know, I came in 7th place in a really stacked show. I'm going to get them next year, going to train my ass off. You know, and I see that and I'm like, oh, there's so much stupidity in that comment, you know. It just, take your lickings, come back and say, you know, judges gave me feedback and said my back sucks, my arms suck, I need to be in better condition, and that's exactly what I'm going to do next year.
Yeah, well, that's part of a coach's job as well, is to set realistic expectations out of the gate. You're not going to take a brand new person and have them win the overall at a, you know, a regional show. And then once the show's over, the coach should be able to say, listen, this is what we're going to work on. This is what you got to focus on, and show them the pictures. See how this guy has huge hanging lats and you have none? Well, we're going to focus on that. You know, like Justin did with Frank, as you mentioned. You know, Frank, one thing I'll give him is he may not have had much muscle when he started, but he was peeled.
Yeah.
You know, like he was always shredded. So he did the things that he was in control of, and he got himself in shape. And then, you know, as the years went by, he's put on a ton of muscle. So he's done the work. He, you know, like you said about Nick Walker earlier, he loves bodybuilding. You know, Frank loves bodybuilding, and his coach loves bodybuilding. You know, so Justin and him have done a great job of, you know, putting muscle on and setting realistic expectations. I never heard Frank say he's going to go win the overall at the USA's.
Right.
He went to go and dip his toe in the water and see what he's got to do. And you know, that's kind of what you got to do. You got to see where you stand, win locally, win regionally, and then go do a national show. Don't waste money, you know, going to these giant events if you're not ready. You got to be ready.
Yeah, and that type of person who, like Frank's a great example of this, of a competitor, of doing the small shows where he's got a chance to place. Yeah. And then once you finally win that, you do that bigger show, like in his case, the New England's, the Cutler, where there's some real talent coming out, and he won his weight class in that. And then going, but he's also the kind of person that, you know, when you go to from a big local show, a regional show, to a USA's, in the open class, man, are there some heavy hitters there. Like, you're going to get your ass kicked first go around, you know, unless you're some crazy genetic specimen. But it's what you do with that, right? Like, Frank will be the kind of guy that will say, wow, I got my ass kicked. Let me look at every guy that placed ahead of me and see what they have that I don't, and use that as motivation to bring up weak body parts so that when I come back, I'm going to be better.
No doubt.
You know? And knowing, like, you know, I was out there with him at USA's. He, you know, he had hoped to make top 10. I think he placed 11th, but he was very realistic. If I'd be thrilled if I get 10th place in this thing with this lineup, you know, this kind of show. And so for a guy like that, he placed right around where he thought he would. He's going to be looking at all those guys that placed ahead of him and saying, okay, what am I missing? What's the game plan to improve it? You know, and no doubt, say, you know, I can't remember what he placed, but say he was 11th place. No doubt he'll be in the top 10 next year, because he'll put in the work, he'll make all the improvements, right? And then it's, you know, maybe he's 7th place, and then the next year he makes top 5. He's going to be one of those guys that will just keep coming and keep improving, because he has the right mindset. You know, it's always, you internalize it and say, what do I have to work on? There's no wording of it was a stacked show, you know, and any of this bullshit kind of passing it on. You know, I was amazing, but there just happened to be these other 10 more amazing guys that showed up, right? It's like, no, I got my ass kicked. This is a high level show, and this is what should happen, you know, when you go up to these for the first time.
Frank will be a super next year.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
That's what he needs to do because he's pretty tall for a heavyweight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So that's it on my end. We covered some good stuff. We'll save some questions for the next one, and keep bringing some of your special insight.
All right, everyone, type in the comment section, bring us some questions, anything new and interesting you want to hear about.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you next time.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
See ya.